Beginning. Hello, everybody. Let me just bring up the slides, and we will get started in just a couple of seconds for anybody who's going to be joining us in a couple of minutes. We'll get it going. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Debbie Horovich, and I'm here with Deborah Thompson-Lees, Dr. Deborah Thompson-Lees. And we're here today to share with you and talk about a new project that we have upcoming, the DragonSlayers Club, which is a book about female surgeons, specifically sharing personal stories of why being a surgeon is a great career choice for young women around the world. And this will be Anthology Book Volume 1, which will be publishing on Amazon globally in fall of 2018. So, hello, and sure. Everyone can see us both now. You can see on your screen, Deborah Thompson-Lees. Debbie, please introduce yourself.
Hey there, I'm generally go by the name of Dr. Deb. I'm an orthopedic trained spine surgeon. I'm currently doing fellowship in both adult degenerative spine and pediatric deformity over in Brisbane, based at both the Princess Alexandra Hospital as well as the Lady Salento Hospital. A lot of other interests, which I'm not going to bore you with now, but a variety of different sporting things, diving, but essentially quite passionate about helping women and, you know, being an advocate for generations coming behind us and giving a hand up. So we're hoping that we can get this project off the ground, and Debbie's going to explain a bit more about it. But this is something that I'm pretty excited about, so keen to get going.
And I do want to point out you're also a mother.
Yes, mother to 3 children. I've got a 14-year-old, soon to be 15, who's kind of bordering on 21. I've got a 12-year-old who is Aussie rules mad and spends his life running and playing sport. And then I've got a young 10-year-old who is the diva of the family.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I point that out because I know that a lot of the other women and female surgeons who will be watching this webinar today share that constant balance struggle. And myself, Debbie Horovich, you know, working as the publisher, I don't share that struggle. I don't actually, for the first time in my life, I think, I have no pets, I have no plants, and I have no kids. And I've never had kids. So it's, you know, I don't understand that struggle, but I'm sure it's, you know, a juggling act.
Yeah, it's it requires a lot of things to run to schedule.
Yeah, exactly. You are a scheduling guru. I would probably actually be quite good at that job as a publisher, and especially a publisher of anthologies. Oh my God, sometimes it's like herding cats.
I can well imagine. I was just saying to a friend the other day is that I'm happy I'm doing my part in it. I don't envy your job whatsoever. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love it. I enjoy it. It's what I love to do, and that's why I'm excited about this project. So, are you ready to get into it and share with everybody what we're working on?
Yeah, let's get going. I'm sort of itching in my chair here.
Good. Me too. For everyone who's watching, for Deb, it's just after midnight where you are.
Yeah, it's just 10 past midnight. Yeah.
Yep. And for me, it is 10 after 10 a.m. And I've been up and excited to get going on this since 3 a.m. this morning. So lots of coffee. Hopefully it won't impede with our presentation today. So let me, you know, I wonder, and I really see, you know, what's interesting is I didn't even share the screen properly before when I showed the first slides in the presentation. Let me learn how to do that again. I'm going to do a screen share and start showing everyone our presentation. So I'm screen sharing, present to everyone. I think so. Okay, present to everyone. And can you see my screen, Deb? Are you seeing the presentation?
I can. I've got that first slide up with the book front cover and the cup.
Perfect. Good. We'll talk about that book front cover very soon. And I did speak about this. This is the DragonSlayers Club. And we are your hosts for today's presentation. So here's where we're going to get into our presentation today. And we'll probably go for about 45 minutes total. And Deb, why don't you introduce this project and you know, the DragonSlayers Club and why it exists and why we need it.
Yeah, well, this is a project that's become very close to my heart because as an orthopedic surgeon, there's not a lot of women represented within the profession. So training in the UK was a bit better, I understand, than it can be worldwide. And certainly coming to Australia, I've realized that there's, you know, a lot less women, even less women than there were in the UK. And this came about because orthopedic surgery is quite a male-dominant, very macho kind of speciality. But there's women that do this and they do it really, really well. But unfortunately, there's a lot of, you know, stereotyping, marginalization, discrimination, a lot of gender issues, and not just from the interaction side of things, but the practical side of things in terms of the size of the tools, how low the bed goes, some of the procedures that, you know, you have to think differently to do. And obviously teaching styles and learning styles are quite different. So these are the differences that I noticed going through the training programs and getting through my exams and things. And then realizing that, you know, because of this environment, we generally don't talk to each other. And because we don't talk to each other, we go through the situation very much in isolation, doubting ourselves, a lot of us suffering with imposter type syndrome, but a lot of us actually have common issues in common, but we don't know about it. We're under the illusion that the other person is doing really well, or that they don't have these same doubts, or they're not facing these same challenges. And it was only when I started talking to a couple of the other women that I was training with that I actually realized that, you know, we need to build more networks. We need to spread the story. We need to give a hand up to those generations following after us. And there's a couple of things going on. So we need to talk amongst ourselves and build those relationships up and tell our stories. But we also need to look at how the general public perceives us in terms of some of the challenges we face from the general public, as people may assume that because we're a woman, we're not the surgeon, that we may fulfill some other role within the hospital service. People may assume that we don't have the strength or the technique to do some of the more difficult surgeries. And then also, you know, people don't necessarily give us the same respect as that they give some of the men. So, for example, you know, they will tend to be a lot more casual with me. Sometimes that can be a good thing because I can, you know, build a rapport a lot quicker with some of the patients. But then in terms of the respect, in terms of taking advice, sometimes they will listen to the male surgeons because they're male and, you know, dictate with authority, whereas women tend to have a different approach to things. So these are all issues that are there, but not everyone talks about, and they're not in the open and they're not being discussed. And when we actually look at the women coming through surgery, these are some fantastic women. You know, they've walked amazing journeys, often very difficult journeys, and many have walked different journeys from what people expect. So this book was really about opening up some of these topics, about examining these in a bit more detail and starting those discussions, but also celebrating the fact that we have this wonderful group of women, who are achieving fantastic things within their career, but balancing this with, everything else that comes with being a woman, in terms of often balancing a family, maintaining a relationship, having a relationship, a social life, contributing to their community, often caring for parents. And all of these things, I think, really need to be celebrated, particularly with these women, also holding down very demanding jobs as well. And speaking to Deb about this is where we came up with the idea that a book would be a great platform for getting this out there. And this is essentially what we want to do, and get that discussion going, get that conversation happening.
Awesome. Let me just stop sharing really quickly. I just want to say I'm Debbie, generally, since we're two Debbies on this webinar. So I guess for the sake of clarity for most people, the book publisher in this case will be Debbie. And because my name on my birth certificate is actually Debbie, I've never gone by Deborah. And I will allow people to call me Deb, but I think in this situation, it's probably a little confusing. So, and
I'll stick with Debbie.
Exactly. And I refer to you in all of the documentation as well, in the slides and all of our contracts and everything like that. I generally refer to you as Dr. Deb or Deb.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. What else was I going to point out? I don't remember. So I'm just going to go back to the slides and back to the next slide. Do you want to talk about this?
So yeah, I think a lot of this I've already addressed in sort of the previous little bit that I was speaking about.
Right.
Which is that, although there are women within the professions and it is slowly increasing, it still represents a very small amount of the total number of surgeons that are out there. And we do know for a certain fact that certain of the surgical specialities have fewer women than others for various different reasons. So this is about, getting women involved, and getting women involved from a young age in terms of when they get to medical school. A lot of women are actually put off right at the start, either by their mentors, discouraging them, feeling that, they should walk a different path or make different choices because work-life balance is important, or they may not cope with the hours or the stress or, maternity leave, or if you choose to have a family, that it would, interrupt your career progression. So there's a lot of advice out there from usually older male mentors who don't necessarily see things from a woman's perspective. And this is one of the reasons we really need to get women out there as mentors, as, role makers, that we can say, look, we've been there, we've done it, it's possible. We just need to show you the way to do it and, work together on getting those solutions across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it sounds to me like it's really a lack of female mentors, but leaders as well, and having the women on the platform that says, here's the information that we have specifically for other women.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few women coming to prominence now, like Dr. Bass in the state, who's president in the USA, who's president of the Surgical College, and then our own Dr. Claire Marks, who was president at the Royal College of Surgeons in England for her tenureship. So there are women making these progresses, but really we need a lot of women mentoring, being there on a daily basis and really showing these, the upcoming ladies, that the support is there.
Yeah, I agree. This project as well is so much more about community than really about individual than most books that I've worked on in the past. Most books that I've worked on have been much more promotional than this one is going to be. And I think it gives us a really interesting platform to share the voices and create content, and participate in the discussions that are happening as well. So like online, when I was researching this project, starting off earlier, when Deb and I were first starting to talk about it, I was researching, and what I was finding was that there's a lot more discussion in the last few years, not so much more discussion in mass media, but in new media very much. On Twitter, there was this interesting campaign taking the mass media cover from the New Yorker, where women were recreating the New Yorker cover, female surgeons. And I thought that was interesting. And I know that Deb and I have had some discussions about how the Time's Up movement more recently is almost sort of giving momentum to the need for more of this discussion and more of this giving a platform to the voices that haven't really been heard in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things that, times are changing. They are definitely moving in the right direction. It's just about keeping that momentum up and building on those campaigns, and, making sure that the opportunities that those campaigns have given, that we then continue to use that as a platform, to give that support that people are needing. And, it's a combination. I see this as both a celebration on one hand, and also a way of having those difficult conversations, opening that door and breaking the ice. And it's one of those things that I think one of the reasons things haven't changed within medicine and surgery for so many years is because those conversations haven't been had, because the people driving those conversations either haven't had the opportunity or have been worried that if they start that conversation, that there would be repercussions. And the one thing that is very, very common within the medical profession is that if you rock the boat, there are repercussions. And this is what stops a lot of people speaking out. And it's about, making this more of a normal part of conversation, that people aren't afraid, which then means, those repercussions don't happen because it's not an extreme conversation to have. And once we start normalizing that, it becomes more and more normal to have a female surgeon, to have a woman on the surgical team, and to have her in a leadership role. And once that becomes more accepted, when it's not the unusual thing where you're expected to be, a different role within the healthcare team, and people aren't surprised by the fact that you're the surgeon, then things change, and they change massively for lots of people. And, if we can get to that tipping point, then that would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting that we're proposing this primarily primarily as a print book, but also as an ebook, and not something like a YouTube channel. We're choosing a very traditional and well-respected method of getting the message and these stories out there to the mass public, and anyone who has a daughter or a granddaughter, or who is themselves a young woman who's considering surgery or any STEM career, really, as a career, or any medical career, that they would have access to this book.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes that we're going for a traditional method, given that surgery is, steeped in tradition and, history in terms of how it's evolved over the years. But also, one of the reasons I'm attracted to actually using this as a book, rather than, as you say, the more modern platforms that we go with, although we are using the ebook, which is modern, is that this is something that can be gifted. And, the gift of giving, it's that symbol of, not only is it the content of the book that's exciting, but it's the fact that it's been given as a gift, and there's a gift within that gift. And to have someone give you something that you can hold that has substance, I think gives a lot of weight to the story as well. And those words then take on a real life and a real presence, particularly when you're holding that book in your hands and looking at it. It just makes things, for me, a lot more real. There's hundreds and hundreds of YouTube clips and, stories, but they explode, but they fade really quickly. And when you look at stories that are endearing and enduring, it's really because it's been written down, and that's been the mark of history. We've got ancient scripts, and, not to say that ours is going to be an ancient type script, but for me, it makes it, but for me, it gives it that solidity and, even more reason to celebrate that. And I don't know, I think it's, very symbolic in the gesture of having a book as well.
Oh, makes me emotional about publishing. I love it. I love hearing you describe it in that way. And that's also a great segue for me to share the presentation about publishing. I think this is, did you speak on all of these points?
I'm just running through in terms of,
I apologize.
No, that's fine. Just going through, the mental and emotional blocks. So that's when I was previously talking about, this process starts right on in medical school, where people may be discouraged from a very early part in their medical journey that surgery isn't a realistic option. That it's too difficult, it's too hard, it's too demanding. The emotional blocks, I feel, come more in terms of the imposter syndrome, in terms of a lot of women are conditioned going through that they're potentially not good enough, that they don't have the skills, they're not learning fast enough, or they don't have the emotional resilience to actually get through. And really, we were talking about the community, the strength of the community. I sort of joke with some of my colleagues and say that, the sisterhood is strong, but the brotherhood is non-existent. And really, it's about drawing on that community of sisters, about, for example, if I take the example of the tools that are, the wrong size for your hands, a lot of women have smaller hands than the male surgeons. If there's enough female surgeons working, there's enough reason for those medical companies to produce female specific tools. Mm-hmm. So it's all about reaching that tipping point where it becomes normal to have women as part of the team. And this is where, it's never occurred to some of my male colleagues that I might be struggling because the bed doesn't go down low enough, or because the handle is too big, or, this tool doesn't sit comfortably in my hands, or, I'm approaching this from a different perspective because it's easier for me to see or visualize, or I might approach a problem differently. Mm-hmm. So that was, the first point. In terms of young women all around the world, in my mind, I see that as meaning all around the world in the true sense of the word. So we know about the first world countries. There's a lot of exposure to social media, texts in the USA, North and South America, parts of Africa. Asia is pretty progressive in certain aspects. Australia is certainly up there amongst the world leaders. But there's lots of other communities where women don't necessarily have the opportunity for education, either because of poverty or because of their cultural surrounds. And, during some of my voluntary work in Iraq, I had the opportunity to speak to some of the women who were there, who potentially would have the opportunities, but they don't have the cultural support, because the culture that they're in is that women, take care of things in the house and they look after their families, and, it's the men's job. But there's very much a need for female surgeons to look after female needs. So it's particularly within those communities, particularly within the poverty-struck parts of Africa, where, having a woman who has these skills in these remote clinics, and, she can make a huge amount of difference to her community. Mm-hmm. And then also my own reasons, which, we've discussed a little bit briefly as well. But for me, it's about the legacy. It's about being able to be instrumental in that change, about using that momentum to bring it forward. And also to make it more of an approachable situation, in that I remember going through med school and seeing some of these women who were very successful. They had their fellowships, some of these women, quite far along the leadership path, and me thinking, I can't talk to these women. They're untouchable. They're so out of my league. How would they even have a cup of tea? But if you have a name, if you become a household name, you then become more approachable. People feel that they have a relationship with you, and it's easier to start that discussion. And once you start that discussion, you then have far more impact in that person's life in terms of motivating them and helping them feel that, they themselves can make a difference. In terms of my impact as an actual surgeon, there's my career progression and stuff that my career will continue regardless of the book. But what this does is this helps me create a platform where I can talk about what I'm passionate about. This is where I can talk about these issues because the book opens the doors. And the more I can talk about this, the more people can hear about it. Again, we then get closer and closer to that tipping point. So there will be some element of promotion with regards to my surgical side, but that's certainly quite a small part of what I'm looking at. For me, it's about being able to have enough of a presence to be able to speak to the people and have the platforms that will really make a big difference, and then, scale up through the contact through that.
Yeah, it's certainly a starting point for something that I think we both agree has the potential to really become impactful. It sounds cheesy, but globally and locally, on an individual basis. And I love the idea of being a part of that foundational change where you can get to the tipping point that the companies that are manufacturing the tools do so specifically for women as well.
Yeah, I mean, that would be in terms of leaps forward, that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And, part of this comes back to, again, sort of going back to the previous point about society where, a lot of TV series and movies very much glamorize life as a surgeon. And the women who are represented within there aren't necessarily representing the true reality of what goes on. And this is about bringing that reality to society as well, about, this is about a different side to life, and bringing a bit of reality back into, those perceptions that people have.
Oh, definitely. Okay, sorry. Screen sharing is the only difficult thing. Am I back on the slides again?
Yep, we're back on the slides.
I can't tell once I'm looking at them. So thank you for that. And so I will take everyone who's watching the webinar through sort of our thinking around the experience and the value of becoming a published book author. And for myself as a publisher, what I find consistently when I'm working with people in a wide variety of professions, business owners, professionals, lawyers, doctors, surgeons. I work primarily with people in healthcare, with some association with healthcare. Even the romance novel that I published recently, both of the ladies sit on hospital boards as philanthropists and helping the community as well. There's lots of doctors in my family. So it's one of the most fundamental secret dreams that humans have. And I think the reason for that, it's like one of the most popular career ideas or dreams that people have held throughout modern history, because the printing press, since its invention 500 years ago, made the opportunity to publish your name and your story and your message and distribute it more widely. It made the opportunity, that position or that accomplishment, so desirable for most people. It's really one of those things that almost everybody, not just surgeons, but almost everybody actually shares the dream of becoming a published and best-selling book author. The unfortunate thing, of course, is that because publishing was an industry at the start that was about manufacturing and distribution, and for up until about the last 15 years, it really was that way. So for almost 500 years, it was a manufacturing and distribution industry rather than a marketing and content development industry. And it was very much guarded by the publishers because of that. So very, very few people have been able to get books published, although there's so many people who write books. Throughout the last 500 years, very few people actually get them published and distributed. But that's changed in the last 15 to 20 years because of Amazon. And modern publishing now, it's much more about content marketing and promotion. And Amazon makes it possible for anybody to publish a book, which means that there are millions of books being published every single year. But it's only the books that are the most highly reviewed and the best-selling books that are promoted by Amazon, that are promoted by bloggers, that are spoken about by media, and that are reviewed by the readers. And when you look at various categories in Amazon, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around the screen, but on Amazon bestsellers list, in the category of surgery, which is where we would want to put the DragonSlayers Club book, you can see the number of stars that the books on the bestseller list have and the number of reviews. The number one listed book has 61 reviews and an average of 4.5 stars. So we would be looking to get into actually the top 10 on Amazon, so that creates a real significant online legacy for the book and for your association with the book, because Amazon is a very highly rated website by Google, because Amazon actually has over 500,000 credit cards of clients on file. Google looks at that and says, wow, people really trust Amazon. So every keyword of every book title that's on Amazon is highly rated by Google. And when people search Google for those keywords, Google looks first to return a book from Amazon because it's highly trusted. So we will be putting the book there and working to make it a bestseller. So from my perspective, at least, when I was thinking about this, I was like, I'm not 100% sure that female surgeons, not any different from male surgeons, but surgeons in general, would have the time to write a book. Certainly, perhaps an anthology makes it easier, but a book in general is really difficult to do. And when I was looking, of course, we know that there are famous, very active and very accomplished surgeons who are also book authors, sometimes novelists, but very often nonfiction authors who write about surgery and who write about medicine. Not only are they writing for mass media articles, but they're also writing full-length nonfiction books that become bestsellers. So somehow we're very busy people, and the old saying is busy people make time for the things that are important. They find the time to write their books. It's, I think for most of them, a discipline. And this is not just unique to surgeons, but any disciplined and also sort of type A personality career, we're able to find the time to write the message that we need to get out there. So they benefit as people and as surgeons, and as surgeons, from the skills of being a book author, from the experience of becoming a book author. It challenges their skills with new marketing and interpersonal situations. Sometimes surgeons can describe themselves as a lone wolf. I think Deb has described herself that way to me before. But it really is one of those things where you experience it in life becoming a book author and use it to grow in the ways that you want and need. And also the experience, not only just of publishing your book, but also of writing your story, can work as a creative outlet for a lot of people. And this is, I think, why surgeons and lawyers and any other very defined and rigid sort of career that's a balance of art and science, that they find it's a good creative outlet because it's great for stress management and for emotional balance, which really does help your skills, I would believe. I can't speak because I'm not a surgeon, but I would believe it would help your skills as a surgeon. You think, Deb?
Yeah, I think being a surgeon is multifaceted, and communication skills are really high up there. So when you're talking about people communicating and being able to put things in a way that people understand, I think it's a skill that surgeons have. And certainly if that's something that you feel you need working on, spending a bit of time looking at that, and particularly, with this book, having that reflective part of that practice, I think is amazing, because, you need that reflection to kind of grow as a person. And this is, writing is always a great way of looking at that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for that. And I also find that for myself, as just a regular person, I think of myself as a regular person. I get told that I'm superhuman as a book publisher, which is amazing. But I think of myself as a regular person, and I look at surgeons, especially female surgeons, as amazing, unbelievable, superhuman people. I think for the rest of society, for you to become not only a female surgeon, but also a surgeon and a best-selling book author, this would be a position in life and within society that very, very, very few people will ever achieve. It's a very unique combination. So to me, that will make everyone who participates in this book superhuman.
Yeah, I think I can only, agree with you. If you, as part of your surgical training, most of us have done some writing, but more on an academic side. Mm-hmm. But to actually branch into, into the more, into the, it's nonfiction, but it's not within the textbook realm, is huge. And particularly as there's a reason behind it, it's just, I just feel it's something that we can become passionate about. Mm-hmm. And I think female surgeons are passionate people because this is the only thing that's, a lot of the time it's what's driven them through their training when things have got hard, is the fact that they can reach deep and be passionate. Mm-hmm. So, to put another string to your bow, and particularly if you can add a feather to that in terms of being best selling, I think you are pretty much leaving a lot of people in your dust.
Absolutely. It's quite an accomplishment as a human to be able to achieve. And the opportunity is right now, which is amazing. So I have this example. I was doing some searching and looking at other surgeons who are book authors. Atul Gawande. I haven't read his books before, but I came across his website, and he is a New York Times bestselling book author, but he's also a staff writer for the New York Times. So it's not as difficult to get published, of course, once they know how great your writing is. But the interesting thing is that he's writing mostly about medicine and about surgery for the mass media audiences. So he's writing an interpretation, his interpretation of his career and of what everyone in society, at least in North America, needs to know about surgery, because it's something that most of us do experience, even though we're not on the side of the table that you're on. And really, although he is promoting the heck out of himself, especially with his website, and you can see he's got his mailing address right there on his website on the page. he's really using the platform that he's developed through his books and through his writing to promote his message and the causes that he is promoting through his career and through his life. So I wanted to point that out for everyone.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
In the past, there has only been one previous anthology about female surgeons that I've been able to find from 2015. And this image actually was taken from Amazon this morning. It's the #1 bestseller in the physicians category this morning. So that gives me a ton of confidence that our book, once published on Amazon, of course, will as well hopefully be the #1 bestseller, but certainly will end up on the best-selling list.
Fantastic.
You didn't read that book, did you? Or sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I haven't. What I was curious is, have you had the opportunity to read that book?
I haven't. I was thinking about it as I was putting the slide together early this morning. I was like, oh, I wish I had time.
Yeah. Because the reason I ask is that it didn't come up in my searches. But I suppose we might have been using different search terms in terms of trying to get stuff up.
Yeah, I found it through a Google search first and found some articles, and then had to search Amazon for the very specific name before I found anything. When I just started searching Amazon, very little came up. So
yeah, because that's interesting, because I was searching Amazon specifically, and it didn't come up. So, you know, I think one of the things that we bring to the table is being able to optimize that side of things, that people can find the book easily, that it has a strong presence. And by doing that, by having that strong presence, it can then really get the message out as well, because, you know, that was particularly difficult to find.
Yeah, well, it's it could also be, as you mentioned, your the browser that you were using and how it's responding. Like I believe Amazon searches, as far as I know, are learning your searches the same way that Google search responds to you and your history of Google search. I think Amazon has the same sort of sorry, the terminology just fell out of my word. Algorithm. They have the same sort of algorithm as Google does. But that's a good point. Thank you for pointing that out. It's true. I think one of the things that gives me a ton of confidence in this project, I've never published a book with female surgeons before, but my past history with optimizing books and with making them into bestsellers, that really is one of the biggest things, is knowing how to optimize the book. And one of the things that we will try and do similar to that female surgeons anthology is really to leverage the vacuum of great stories like this that exists in the marketplace, and send the copies of the book or copies of individual chapters out early to people who are other well-known surgeons and writers and people who write about the medical field, as well as organizations. In just another slide or two, we'll be talking about the marketing that we'll be doing. Did you want to say anything on this, Deb?
No, I just think, I think we're trying to achieve something similar in that, it's about highlighting what it takes, what the training takes, what the job takes, and then celebrating that achievement. So yeah, again, having a look at that gives me a huge amount of confidence that would be successful. And certainly talking to a number of people in various situations, they've said that, they're very interested in that as well. So I think we'll have a great public appeal.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this project. So I'm going to touch really quickly on, I'm not sure if you in the audience have ever heard of anthology books or co-authored, multi-author books, sometimes they're called. But really, they're some of the most historic books that have ever existed. The Holy Bible, as a great example of an anthology, is stories that each chapter, each book within the Bible was written by its own individual author, and they named that book after the author. And they are sharing stories of their own personal interactions with God. Similarly, and not only is it an anthology book, but what I love about the Bible is that it was written over a period of 1,600 years, which is, to me, just absolutely incredible, and gives me so much confidence that any book, if you're working on a book and it's been taking you 5 years already, don't worry, because the Bible took 1,600 years. So
hopefully we won't have such a long publishing schedule.
Oh my goodness, I can assure you we will not. And I think also, like the Bible is really the book that paved the way for publishing and paved the way for all of us to be so excited about this opportunity and this project. But other books that have come in the past, Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, who started the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series in the late 1980s, they pitched this book series to over 200 publishing houses before one finally accepted it. And then it has become since one of the most best-selling worldwide book series since the late 1980s in existence. And they were rejected for years before they got a publisher. Wow. So we're lucky. we're going to be published right away. And when I looked at their Facebook page, they have nearly 2 million likes on their Facebook page. And Chicken Soup for the Soul really is people submitting their own individual stories, very similar to the DragonSlayers Club.
Yeah. And I wanted to pick up on that comment very quickly that you made about, people having to go to traditional publishing houses and knocking on hundreds and hundreds of doors before they get an acceptance. And, my foraging into the publishing world was certainly like that, with my children's series. Mm-hmm. I must have sent off at least 150, letters, applications, agents, pitches, until that first one came through. So, it's really, I feel quite confident in the fact that we're in a position of inviting people to join us, which mm-hmm. means that, all that work of them having to tramp around publishing houses and all that hard work is just, it's not even an issue with this, which is just such a fantastic opportunity, given that, if you did have a dream of writing a book, getting that published, as you said earlier, that actual transition into publication is just such a difficult process. So I don't know, I'm excited about the fact that I can say to people, join us, be part of this team, and all that stuff's taken care of. That is just such a bonus for doing this. I'm really excited about being able to offer that.
Well, it warms my heart because I am the fairy godmother of book publishing, and that's what I aim to do, is to make life easier for book authors and people who have a dream of becoming a published book author. And really that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about, which is the benefits of participating in a book that is an anthology versus going the traditional route, looking for a traditional publisher and taking on 100% of the responsibility of the book yourself. So that's probably the biggest benefit of participating within an anthology, especially if you've never published or written a book before. When you look at it, the writing and storytelling, maybe you're talking about 1/20th or 1/25th of the book content, instead of being responsible for writing 100,000 words or 100% of the book content, which could be 50,000 words or more. Really, you're looking at an essay of 2,000 to 2,500 words, which is much, much more manageable for someone who's a busy surgeon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I've been through that traditional publishing previously, and it is so time consuming. And I kind of went
You're
to
still working on it.
yeah, and I was kind of thinking, this is a children's book. We're not talking hundreds of pages here. It's just like a couple of pictures, and how hard can it actually be? And oh my word,
yeah,
it's a tough process, and it's time consuming, and I kind of, and this is what makes me so excited, because we can get it together with everyone working, and if everyone delivers their parts, we can get a huge amount of work done in such a short time and actually have a really good product, with, drawing on that sisterhood, drawing on that spirit of cooperation. And, just in terms of having gone through that process previously, to think that process can be made so much easier, so much more accessible, is just fantastic. Absolutely, mind-blowing.
Yeah. And I think you touched on it as well, not only the community that's there to support you, but just in how we've constructed this opportunity and put it together. Deb, you are taking over the responsibility for the branding, the cover, the title, the website, for the creation of all of that. And I have the responsibility for the business and all of the marketing and promotion and publishing elements of the book. And that's something that, if you were considering writing, or if you are working on writing your own book or working on getting your own book published, those are all decisions that you will have to make yourself. And with this opportunity, we try and make it really easy for you by making all of those decisions for you in this experience.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say that's a huge time saver, to do that stuff as a sole author is, years of work. And I'm not exaggerating. Unless you are doing this as a full-time project, you're talking a massive time investment, not to mention financial investment. So to be able to spread that cost over, a number of people all contributing, again, is a massive benefit.
Yeah. And that's a great segue. Again, thank you, into really what the benefits for anyone who does decide to join us in this opportunity and contribute your own story to the experience. The benefits that you'll experience through it, what I know from publishing and pulling together other anthology books, is that writing this particular story, telling it, the act of sitting down and writing it, when it's a story that most of us have never told before, we've never really thought about it. And that action can be very cathartic and very healing, and can help you resolve situations just through the process of writing. You don't actually have to publish everything that you end up writing. You can cut stuff out before the end, but it's a good experience to go through. As well, participating in the book will, of course, it's going to give you a lot of hands-on and sort of front row and center viewpoint of what happens in publishing and all of the decisions that have to be made. You won't have any responsibility for them, but you'll have that fly on the wall inside of how a book gets put together, so that for your own book, for your next book, for your future, whatever it is that you want to do, you have that much more of an informed decision because you have this experience already. And then even if you're not thinking about publishing another book in your future, if this is the first time you've ever thought about writing a book, which is probably not likely, but if it is, the truth of the matter is you don't ever have to write another book after this one, because you will achieve the title of best-selling book author. And that's something that you can choose really to leverage when you want in your future. It's something that you will accomplish that will be in your past now, rather than a dream that you have in your future, like most people. And it's something that once it happens, once we put the book onto the best-selling list, you are a best-selling book author, and that title can never be taken away from you. whether you ever leverage it or not. You could even put it away in the closet. I sort of refer to the best-selling book author title with my clients as a superhero cape. And when you put it on, you transform into a superhero that everyone wants to talk to because they want to know how to get their own book published. But when you take it off, you are just a regular person again, just a regular female surgeon again.
I'm having a bit of a chuckle, Debbie, because I can see the coffee cup already, sort of female surgeon, because superhero isn't an official job title.
I love that. We're going to have to do DragonSlayers coffee mugs with that exact phrase on them, and maybe t-shirts.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it. And then finally, this is something, the benefits of, especially for this book, as I mentioned earlier, it's much more about contributing back to society and contributing to the community that we're working to build together, and positioning yourself for society to see as you are a mentor and you are a leader to the next generation of female surgeons. If you're concerned at all about storytelling or writing, like I said, it's a short essay that we're looking for, a little bit over 2,000 words. I'm actually kind of flexible on the chapter length, so I say 2,000 words plus. But I will be providing some storytelling clinics through June, through next month, to ensure that everyone who is contributing their story into the book is confident that the story that they're telling is the stories that they want to tell, and that it gets across the message that they want to communicate. So I'll be there to help you with that. And whether you're a good quality writer or not, the most important thing is that you tell your authentic, passionate story, which I'm surely confident that we all can do. And then once chapters have been submitted to me, they will be fully edited and proofed by CreateSpace professionally. So even if you have lots of grammar issues or English is not your first language, you don't really have to worry about looking like a bad writer or looking like you don't understand English very well, because we're going to make sure that we edit everything. And then finally, also, there's, of course, the option if you're from another country, or if English is not your first language and you prefer, not only that you prefer to tell your story or you prefer to write your story in your mother tongue, but if you want the story to have the opportunity to be published and read in that language, you can also write and submit your story in that language, and then we'll have it translated into English, published in the book, in the primary anthology book, but we'll also publish your book in English and the second language or first language as an individual ebook for a small added fee. And that added fee, I don't know exactly how much it will be, but basically the cost of editing and translations. So not too much.
Fantastic. That would be great, particularly if some of the authors do want that, because again, it just helps get that story out into all those corners. And that's where I feel sometimes it's those far-flung corners that actually need that support and encouragement.
Yeah, I strongly agree. And I think that's, for me, that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this opportunity. I have never done this before for an anthology. The majority of my clients are all English first language in the past with anthology books. So with this opportunity, and we've already been speaking to female surgeons about this opportunity, and some have said, if they're from Iran or other countries. South Africa wasn't one of them, but there was another country that came up, and it was only a handful of female surgeons that I was speaking to, all in English language countries, all practicing currently in English language countries, but that they have a different language as their mother tongue. So it's something really to consider and speak to me about if that's something that you're interested in. Okay, so moving on. You're still with me, right, Deb?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I was like,
I've not fallen off my chair yet.
We went after our cutoff time, so I wanted to make sure I didn't actually lose you. I can't see you on the screen also, so.
I'd said I've had a few wobbles off the chair, but I've not actually fallen off, so we're good.
Yeah, me either. But we have just a few more slides left, so thank you everybody for sticking with us. We will be publishing, the plan is to publish the book in both ebook and in print. There's the potential, based on the success of the book, and if we're successful at getting sponsors and supporters with the book, there's a really good potential that we will do an audiobook, because audiobooks generally end up being about 50% of the readership in listening, and royalties earned. Now, for this book, royalties earned will be minimal, but there's the potential that we could increase it slightly with an audiobook. And mentioning royalties, the plan for this book, which I don't think we mentioned on any of the slides, but the plan is, especially because the royalties are going to be minimal, because the price will be low on this book, because we want it to be able to be available and accessible to everybody at any price. There won't be a lot of royalties generated, and our plan is to donate any royalties that are generated to a not-for-profit organization or a charity that is related to what we're talking about here, so that we have as well another organization that we can participate with in cross-promotion.
That's something I just, I feel from a point of view from, from if I can, if we can use the funds from this book to channel into supporting, what we're passionate about, which is, these future generations of women coming through, then I think we've come full circle with that book, in terms of, we're putting our money where our mouth is, essentially, and, we're showing that we are serious and we are passionate about this.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that opportunity, what we will be looking at, and I'll talk about this on the next slide as well, is we will be looking to reach out to sponsorship organizations and supporting organizations in advance of publishing, as well as after the book is published. So there is the potential, if we can get sponsors, production sponsors, or post-publishing sponsors that are buying a bulk of the books, there is the potential that we will have a lot more earnings and profit from the book that would then go back into a charitable organization. That's the plan. So, right, Deb?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it would be a great way of showing that we're serious about what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I think we are serious about it.
Yeah. And, just to go back, we didn't start this project as a money-making project. That was never the idea behind this. This was always about, providing that support, starting that conversation, making this more of a regular topic to talk about, and about providing support. So, that's kind of where I was coming from, and, we were both on the same page when we spoke about this. And this is why I feel, being able to then have a source of funding to support an association that is doing what we're talking about, I think just ties the project together beautifully.
Yeah. That's, what makes me so excited about it is that the opportunity with sponsors is truly to spread the message so much further.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want, is we want everyone with a copy of our book, essentially.
Exactly. That's why it's not. It really is truly not a money making opportunity, especially not in the royalties. But it really, we want the price to be low, but we want support, financial support for this cause and for the activities that we can put in behind it, to promote the book and put it in the hands of everybody. Like, it would be great if there was a sponsor that would say, we're going to pay for the cost of distributing your book to every young woman that needs it or wants it or requests it. We're going to subsidize the cost of that to every young woman in a particular country.
I mean, it would be great if, a medical school would, purchase a whole set for all their first year students, or,
Exactly.
Something like that would just be absolutely awesome.
Exactly. That's what our intention is. So I'll talk about that in really briefly in the next slide, but for your information, if you're considering this opportunity, it does come together really quickly. We're working on the enrollment of co-authors this month and through next month. I think I set the deadline for enrollment at June 12th, giving us a month from today. And then June is really the month that we're writing the chapters. I'm at the moment, and these deadlines are flexible. So based on once people are signing up, once we know who's in, and what everyone's schedule is like, we have a little bit of flexibility, and will have the opportunity to consider moving the chapter submission deadline if necessary. But otherwise, through June should be enough time, hopefully, and also should be a limit of time that you can put into writing your chapter. And then we'll be doing the editing and formatting through the summer and publishing on Amazon before the US Thanksgiving, but I would like to do it late October. And then aiming to have it become a bestseller on Amazon by December 1st, which
Fantastic.
is amazing. And hopefully everyone who has ordered print copies as well would have them in their hands, hopefully by December 1st if you order them, or certainly before the holiday season.
Those would be great gifts to give people. So, something that some of the people I've spoken to, one of the things that really captured their imagination was being able to give someone a copy of their book for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Can you imagine? And this year,
yeah,
like knowing that your Christmas gifts for 2018 are all taken care of because you're going to hand out copies of this book.
But, having gone through the traditional publishing route, this process can take ages.
Yeah.
So, to think that it's a quick project, you get it in, you get it promoted, you're holding your book by Christmas is, just another great thing, because you can just get your head down, write your chapter, and you're good to go.
Exactly. It doesn't have to take over your entire life. When I do work with my signature publishing clients on their full-length novels and full-length nonfiction books, we often take 9-10 months, over a year to get publishing. So it's almost an opportunity that exists within the anthology makeup of this project and of this opportunity, that we're able to do it so fast. The very first anthology that I published, the Silver Lining Storybook, which was also with health professionals, we were 3 months from the very first person who enrolled to submit a chapter until the day that we published the ebook on Amazon. The print books came 6 weeks later, but 3 months was incredibly fast. It was it was too fast for not only for the co-authors, but it was too fast for us to actually be able to put together the sponsorships that we wanted to, because sponsor organizations need time to consider these sorts of opportunities. So we wanted to build in a little bit more time for this project, not only so that the sponsors have the opportunity, but also so that you, who are female surgeons, who are busy balancing not only your career, but your families, and now this project as well. I just wanted to give you a little bit more time so that you wouldn't come through this experience going, wow, I really lost 3 months of my life. That's the last thing that I want. Is I want you to really feel like this was the easiest and fastest and most efficient way to become a best-selling book author in your life.
It certainly appealed to me.
And I love it. So I'll talk really briefly about the promotional opportunities. We have none of these are confirmed. We do not have a relationship with women surgeons yet. But I'm going to be reaching out to all of these organizations. And I generally find that when I do, there's no reason for them to reject what we're doing because we're working on the same things. So generally, because we're all working to create communities of support, communities where we're stewarding the experience of the next coming generation, the existing organizations are hosting events that we can participate in, and we plan to reach out to them and not only try and sponsor those events, but even sponsor those events sometimes on exchange or in a donated way. So that's that. So some of the people, the female surgeons that we've spoken to already had some questions about the commitment and what's required of you if you decide to say, yes, I'm loving everything that Deb and Debbie are talking about. I really want to participate. I can see myself as a best-selling book author. Even if you decide that you want to be an anonymous contributor to the book, the first thing is you would need to contribute your story chapter. We're looking, like I said, by the end of June. You will have help, coaching and webinars from me throughout the month of June to help. So that should actually not be all that difficult. And I've estimated 3 writing sessions. If you can sit down 3 times for a period of 2 hours total, you should have no trouble meeting the commitment to meet that submission and that submission deadline. And then Deb might want to speak to this point as well a little bit, because there's some big differences between female surgeons in North America and female surgeons in other areas of the world and promotion. So we've made this, and this is the same truthfully with all anthology book opportunities. It's really about promoting the book as much or as little as you're comfortable with. As much as you want to leverage the book in your life to change how people are looking at you, you can do that. If you simply want to contribute your story, but not be associated with the promotion because it feels overly self-promotional to you, then that's okay as well. And like I mentioned earlier, we do have the opportunity, and I'm completely open to discussing with you if this is something that you want to contribute your story as an anonymous contributor with no Amazon or online names listed.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I think if you do want to promote yourself and use the book as a platform to do so, I think it's a great opportunity. But ultimately, the plan was to promote it as a concept, to promote it as a support tool. But it has so many different facets. I think there's a lot of flexibility in terms of where you go with this. Sorry, I've just got a bit of a chesty cough. The one thing that I would say is that, I'm planning on doing a lot of marketing for this project, because I think if we're all going to pull together and put that effort in, it deserves, the respect, and it deserves, our flat out effort with the promotions. But if you want to promote it personally on your social media platforms, on your private web pages, that would be entirely up to you. obviously, if, the more promotion we can get, the better that would be.
Yeah.
But if that's something you're not comfortable doing, but you're happy to support other people promoting it, that would be great as well. I think this would open up a lot of opportunities where, if someone for a radio program or a TV program might need someone to comment on something, because your name is on that book, you may very well be an option on their list of potential people to speak to. And if those opportunities come up and you want to take them, that's awesome. I think that would be great for you as a surgeon, great for you as a person, just an amazing experience to participate in those kind of events. But at the same time, if you feel that that's really not your cup of tea, if you turn those down, or you said, look, that's not what you're interested in, certainly that wouldn't be expected. It wouldn't be expected that you feel obliged to engage in those kind of activities if that's really not what you want to do. And if you just said, look, I've contributed my chapter, I'm done, that's also perfectly okay with us. And it's entirely your choice and well within your control.
Absolutely. Thank you. So well put. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. My screen shared to participation options?
Yep.
Okay, good. So if you are still with us and you're considering participating in the DragonSlayers Club, this first volume of Female Surgeons anthology, we have two options based on how deep you want to participate. One is to contribute your story only and have earn yourself the title of best-selling book author by participating in, of course, both the ebook and the print book that will be on Amazon, available worldwide. And everyone who participates in the book will have access to the ebook so that they can give away unlimited copies of the ebook, or sell them if that's what you would like to do. And for this option, the story only package, we have options priced as low as $400 per month for 4 payments. Or if you wanted to go with the full pay package, it's $1,500 a month. So there's really only a $25 per payment financing fee if you choose to go with payments versus the full pay. It's really what is most convenient for you. What we're looking for is really to make this as accessible as possible for as many organizations and as many individuals to participate as possible. The second option is for anyone who is more interested in that personal promotion element. So any surgeons who are in private practice, or really looking to create a name for themselves, or even thinking about writing novels and other nonfiction books themselves in their future. This is really a great experience to get started with your book authoring journey in your career. And the full package will give you as well in the print edition. So everybody is included in the print edition, but the print edition, we're going to create a print edition specifically for you that has a cover design that is customized so that your name is on the front cover, with Deb Lee's as well. But your name is highlighted on the front cover so that when you hand out copies of the book, it's your name on the front cover instead of Debbie's. It doesn't have those questions. Why is your name not on the book that you authored? And as well, for the print edition, we'll also bring your chapter from whatever the position of your story is in the Amazon issued book. We're going to bring your chapter to the front. And then finally, because this is more about personal brand promotion and developing perhaps even a business for private practice surgeons, we will develop for you a specialized website for the book. It's known as a funnel, so that you can give away the free ebook in exchange for collecting emails. And so for this package, we have payment options as low as $500 per month, and these are US-based prices by 5 payments. And the full pay rate for the full package, I actually went through and made some changes to the pricing this morning, very early this morning. And I removed almost all of the financing, like sort of what I told Deb before we started. I said I removed the bullshit extra costs because they're really not necessary. And what we're really looking to do is make this, as I said, as accessible for everybody as possible. So even if you want the full package, the full pay is $2,500. So there's no financing fees, no extra costs if you choose to go with monthly payments. But we do have bonuses for people who have full pay or for people who sign up before the 25th of May. So if you're still with us and all of this is really interesting to you, I believe this could very well be a once in a lifetime opportunity for you. It may very well be for me as well. But I really want to ensure that we have the opportunity, that we embrace the opportunity that we have, and that we put in every ounce of energy and passion that we have to creating this to be the best book that we have. I'm not planning a volume 2. I don't know what Deb's plans are for the female surgeon book, but we're going to put everything that we have into this one book. And if that sounds like it's a fit for you, then get in touch with me either on Facebook. My name is Debbie Horovich, and I'm available there and happy to speak with you anytime. You can also schedule an appointment with me on Schedule Once, that meetme.so link. You can just type that in. And then Deb is also available on Facebook to chat if you have questions about the club. And then we do have the website set up. At the moment, it's collecting email addresses and helping to promote the public Facebook group. So if you're interested, but you're unsure whether or not you want to actually contribute your story to the book, and you just want to participate in the community for the moment while you think about it, go to this link, the DragonSlayersClub.com, and register your email and join the Facebook group, and then we'll at least know that we have the communication available. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, Deb, before we close out this webinar?
Yeah, the only last thing, well, first of all, I just want to say, everyone, thanks for sticking with us through that. I know it's been sort of quite a lot to swallow. But just as a last little bit, if you decide that this project is interesting, but possibly not for you, or even if it is for you, if you know someone who you think would be a perfect fit, please also tell them about this, because I know that a lot of the networks, it's all about personal contacts, personal, recommendations. And if you know an awesome female surgeon who would be perfect fit for this, but who may not have heard about this project, or we may not have found them in terms of offering the opportunity to them, please point them in our direction. We would love to be able to talk them and include as many people. So, if you know of anyone, send them our way, and we'd be more than happy to talk to them and give them the information so they can hopefully join us as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Like Deb said, for sticking with us and for watching this webinar. It's actually, the honest truth is, I've been on probably hundreds of webinars in the last 5 years, and I've never been on one that was less than 90 minutes. So, we're actually still doing pretty good, even though we thought we might try and keep it to 45 minutes. So thank you, Deb. I know it's seriously late for you. I now I get to go to bed and sleep for the next 6 hours. So I didn't sleep last night.
I get 2 hours sleep, and I get to go back to work.
Yeah. Well, joys, it's a calling, right? That's why they call it a calling.
Oh yes, I can hear me bed calling. That's what I can hear.
Exactly. Well, thank you if where you're watching, if it's late in the morning or late in your shift, or late in your week, thank you so much for sticking with us. And please reach out to me at any time, or reach out to Deb. And we really look forward to sharing this opportunity with you. So thank you very much, and
Thanks very much.
have a good day.
You too.